Before doing Packet Tracer 105, in Module 1 in the NetAcad course, be sure and watch the video on how to download and install Packet Tracer, then download it and install it on your machine. Take a look at the video on how to get started, which gives you an intro on how to use it. And then finally, the next step will be to try it out with this assignment. Once Packet Tracer comes up, it loads an activity page and then the network itself. The activity page has a dock checkbox where you can dock it, kind of lock it into place if you want to use it. And you can also adjust the size of the window. If you want the full screen to be your network, of course, you don't have to dock the activities. You can just minimize that page, but it comes in handy sometimes if you want to refer to the instructions and have them right there. And it tells us that the network model in this Packet Tracer physical mode activity incorporates many technologies that you can master in Cisco NetAcad courses, and it represents a simplified version of how a small to medium-sized business network might look. In this scenario, most of the devices in the Seward branch office and the Warrenton data center are already deployed. In other words, they're already in production, being used and configured. In this scenario, you've just been hired to review the devices and the networks deployed. It's not important that you understand everything you see and do in this activity. Answer the questions to the best of your ability. And there's a note that this activity opens in and focuses on physical mode, which is this button right here. And many of the Packet Tracer activities you're going to encounter in these NetAcad courses will use logical mode. So you can toggle in between the two. Not all scenarios will allow you that they might have one of them locked out if they want you just to use one mode or another. But in this one, you can toggle between both. In part 1, we're going to investigate this toolbar here, which at the bottom left-hand corner has various categories of networking components. There's a category called Network Devices. Then you have your End Devices, Components. The lightning bolt is your connections, which is your networking media, such as cabling, that's supported by Packet Tracer. And then the last two categories are miscellaneous and multi-user connection. So the first question in your lab document that it wants you to answer is, what are the subcategories for network devices? You go to your network devices, first icon on the left, and below that is where you have your subcategories. So the first one is routers. The next one is switches, hubs, wireless devices. You might have to click on it. Security and WAN emulation. So these are the 6 subcategories that you should locate as your subcategories under network devices. In part 2, turn our attention to a wiring closet and look at that part of the network. So if we went exploring, we would want to come back here to this physical mode, and this whole scenario is called intercity. So in the top blue bar, we want to click the physical button and then use the navigation panel or back level buttons to navigate to intercity, these navigation buttons here. So now that we're here, we want to click on the Seward City and specifically click on the branch office building. And the branch office of this company has a wiring closet in this building that we're going to investigate further. So we want to click on that, and that will open up the view of the wiring closet. In step C, we want to notice that there's a rack, a cable pegboard, a table, and a shelf. The rack itself contains devices that can be rack mounted, and if you zoom in on the rack by using the zoom tool up here by clicking the plus sign a few times, you can see at closer view they're mounted actually in the rack. They're fixed. And then below the power distribution device here, there is a router. Routers are used to connect different networks. Then below the router, which is labeled Edge Router, The next two devices, they're called switches. These switches are providing wired connections to connect to other devices. Your end devices, for example, will typically connect to a switch. Notice that the devices have a name assigned by the network administrator. And the next question in your document is, which devices use a wired connection to connect to switch ALS2? So we go back to our scenario, we locate the switch named ALS2. We see that there are cabled connections, and if you hover your mouse, it will tell you that the destination device there on the third line is web server. So the web server device is connected to this particular port. Then you also have, on the third line there where it says destination device, access underscore point is the name of the device that's connected on that port, and that is going to be for Wi-Fi, wireless access point. And finally, these two connections here are both connected to this other switch, ALS1. So there are three devices using a wired connection to connect to switch ALS2. The next question, below the switches in the rack is a wireless access point, which is this device here. Wireless access points use a wireless connection to connect to other devices. And kind of a clue to that is you see these two antennas here. Switch to logical mode, and then to say which device is connected to the access point. So to switch to logical mode, click Logical, locate your access point in the logical diagram, and there is one device which is actually connected to access point. This would be the laptop one, right? Notice that the regular cabling is represented by a solid line, but you can tell this is wireless or Wi-Fi by the broken line that represents that. The next question that we're going to be answering tells us to switch to physical mode. So that'll take us back to the branch office wiring closet. We know that the device that's connected to the access point is called laptop 1, but there's no cable to trace because this is a wireless connection. So we want to locate laptop 1, and we see that it is physically located here on the table. Before moving on to part 3, there are no more questions to answer in the lab document, so once you're completed with that, you can save it and go ahead and drop that in the Dropbox. So the rest of the steps will be done completely in the packet tracer file, which, by the way, you will be saving and turning in as well when you're done. Looking at part 3, it says devices can be connected in a variety of ways. For network connectivity, devices are usually connected using either a copper straight-through wired cable or wirelessly. So for management connectivity, devices are usually connected using a console cable or a USB cable. There is a note here saying that Packet Tracer will grade the rest of this activity. At any time, you can click the Check Results button here to check your progress, but there is a completion percentage here that will also show you your progress. When you do use the Check Results window, there is an Assessment Items section, so you can hone in on specific items if you are having any issues. You can click Close here to close the Check Results window. Part 3 tells us to, first of all, investigate the cable pegboard, which includes 2 console cables, which are these light blue cables, 10 copper straight-through cables, which are these green ones, 4 fiber cables, which are the yellow ones here, and then there are 2 coaxial cables and 2 USB cables. Notice that the cable representations in physical mode, which we're in right now, are more representative of their real-world counterparts than logical mode, where they're just basically solid or broken lines. In the B step, it says go back to physical mode and click a copper straight-through cable from the cable pegboard. It will show you when you hover over it to verify that that's what it is. Then float your mouse over the ports on PC1 here on the table, and you can zoom in if you like, just to see that a little bit better. You should see a fast Ethernet 0 label pop up. Click that port to connect that cable that you selected in the previous step, and make sure that it highlights in bright green like this to make sure that you actually made the connection. The other end of the cable is going to connect to the ALS2 switch to get its network connection by clicking an empty fast Ethernet port, which is these here with the RJ45 type of jacks. Click on one of those and it should fill in and put a cable there, which you can see is physically connected to the PC, and your completion percentage should show as 16% once you've done that. In step F, it tells us PCs and laptops can also be connected to networking devices using a console cable or a USB cable. This connection provides management access for managing a network device. So we're going to do that. We're going to click a console cable, one of the light blue ones, from the pegboard back to PC1, and this time we see the other input is a RS-232. We're going to click on that, and that should turn bright green to show success. Now we want to go to the edge router, which is the topmost device, and find the console port on that device. And again, feel free to zoom in. It's much easier to see the labeling. So once you've located the console port, once you click that, you should see the console connection completed and the cabling path here. So you can zoom in and out as you need to. So you've now got your PC1 connected for both a network connection and a management connection. It's going to manage the edge router because it's got that console connection to the edge router. And then your completion rate now should say 33% at this point. In part 4, we will install a backup router. Newer models of networking devices can be accessed through a USB port for management configuration, because newer laptops and PCs don't usually include an RS-232 type port for console cable connections anymore. So we want to investigate the shelf. So zoom out to, here's the shelf over on the right hand side. This includes an inventory of devices that are not currently installed. They're basically spare parts. So we want to find the backup router, which is this one here, and we want to click and drag that to an empty spot in the rack. So here's an empty spot right below the switches, for example. Some devices are not automatically powered on when installed in the rack. So we're going to need to power this backup router on. We want to go to the backup router, zoom in, and you can right click and it'll say inspect rear, so that you can see the rear of the device, and you can use the slider bar to slide over if you need to. And then you're going to click on that and you should see the green light indicating that it is now powered on. Once you've powered on the backup router, the next thing it wants us to do is on the cable pegboard, it wants us to go get a USB cable, which, if you recall, I'm just going to close that, was on the far right. So click to grab one of those, and then we want to go back to the rear view of inspect the rear of the backup router. This is our console connection. So we find the USB console, click on that, highlighted in green, but we need to also connect the other end of that USB cable to the device that's actually going to be managing the backup router. So at this point, we are going to go to the laptop 1 to connect that other end of the USB cable. So laptop 1, which is sitting here, and the power's on because we've got a green light. We've got some green lights here. If you did need to power it on for some reason, the power button is right there. But it's already on. We want to connect the other end of this to one of these two USB ports. So I'll just choose USB 0. Finally, in the last part of this packet tracer, we do a configuration of a host name. So it tells us network managers, they'll usually assign a name to a networking device so that you can tell one from the other. because out of the box, a Cisco router will just be named router until you name it something else. So we're going to use our console connection to the backup router that we just connected to give it a new host name. So the first thing that we want to do is go to our device that we're using to manage backup router, click on laptop 1, click on desktop, and when you have a console connection, you want to use a terminal application. Accept these port settings, they're fine. That will put us on the command line of this device. And it's going to ask us, do you want to enter the initial configuration dialog? And we're going to answer no. We're just going to do one command right now. That puts us to the console. Press return to get started. Again, the factory default name is just simply router. So in order to change that, the first thing we have to do is elevate our privileges to enable mode by typing the command enable. And then the prompt will turn to a hashtag to show us that we are elevated mode to where we can do some configuration. Then to get into configuration mode, we're going to type configure terminal, which you can simply type part of the command name and then tab for tab completion. Configure terminal. Later on, you'll get used to shortening these commands like conft instead of configure terminal, but now it's good to learn the full command names. Once you're in config mode, you'll see your prompt change to indicate that, and now you can enter the host name command to assign a new name. This is the name that we're instructed to give it. If you like, you can highlight it, copy, right-click, and paste. Just make sure that you get the entire name copied and pasted so the grading script will give you credit for it. As soon as you enter the command, you'll see your prompt will immediately change to reflect the new name. If you go back out, close this window, and if you go back out over to the rack, you'll see that in the rack it's still showing this is named backup router as far as the display. It just tells you if you click the router and look at the config under global settings, there is a place where you have a separate configuration. The display name is different from the host name. So it's just wanting to point that out to you. You can actually change that to make them the same if you want to, but for the purposes of this packet tracer scenario, we're just going to leave them alone. At this point, click File, do a Save As, and then Save as PKA file. Just add your name or something on there just to show that it's completed, just to differentiate it from the original file. And then save that, and then you'll drop that in the Dropbox as well. If for some reason there's not 100% completion, again, you can go to Check Results, look under Assessment Items to see which area is not correct, and then you can go back and troubleshoot. This completes Packet Tracer 105.